Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Tonight on Our News, drama unfolds on Cabbage Beach after vendors are denied access. The mother of a man shot by police speaks out, and more than $500,000 in payouts for healthcare workers. Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, a tense scene on Cabbage Beach today as vendors were denied access. They eventually took matters into their own hands. Kyle Joaquin has the story.
We refuse to let them move us from here. We are not moving. We gonna fight, and we gonna fight like we don't know how. And if Minister he want to war with the Bahamian people, he will get it, because we ain't moving.
Vendors have not been able to return to work for over a year due to the pandemic. And when they met this locked gate, they took matters into their own hands to get it open.
A year and a half, almost 2 years now. Everybody back to work. The vendors from Atlantis Beach already back to work. Junkanoo Beach, they're already back to work.
Yeah, they tried to shut us off from weekend, but what happened is last year the pandemic hit, so they told us we could come back to work next month. Now they're trying to put everybody off the beach, and I don't think it's fair.
To make matters worse, vendors learned this morning that their equipment like beach chairs, umbrellas, and souvenirs were moved from the beach across the street. By whom, they don't know.
Everything was back out to the road out there.
Where are they now?
Still out there to the road. Still there to the road.
They're supposed to come back to work on the first of next month. Comes this morning now, all our chairs out to the road break up.
You left them here?
We left them here yesterday, chain up. They break up our stuff at being like waste dogs.
Who broke them?
We don't know who would take them off the beach.
But there was one person at the last Cabbage Beach demonstration who was noticeably absent today. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who back in 2016, before he became Prime Minister, actually stood with these same vendors when they were locked out.
And the people have understood today that once we stand together, we will not allow Perry Christie and his government to walk over us again.
But Minister, where you is now?
Yeah.
Where you is now, Dr. Minnis?
Yeah.
Where you is now for the Bahamian people?
Mr. Minnis, you are now for them in trouble if y'all don't remedy this. It's time.
By the time those vendors made it back to the beach and went back to get their stuff, the area was blocked off by a police car.
What is going on, Marvin Dames? Did you give the Commissioner of Police the authority to block this? Huh? Why now?
Now these Cabbage Beach vendors are actually walking across the road over here to get the chairs and other equipment that they say they lost over on the beach and bring them right back to their workstation.
They ready to break my chair.
This is your equipment as well?
Get my chair. Tell them pay for my chair.
Vendors wasted no time in moving their things back to the beach. These are your equipment that you're trying to take back now to the beach?
Yes, I got my stuff back.
How many of these chairs do you have to move back now?
Well, I have 200 chairs. I only find 80 chairs are all my chairs.
These are your equipment, sir?
This is my stuff here. Yeah. I'm getting it back on the beach, sir.
Lincoln Bain from the Coalition of Independents rallied the vendors.
I went to jail for the same thing 5 years ago. Of course, we won our case back then. And of course, it was established in the House of Assembly and in the courts that this is a public right-of-way. No one should ever block this.
Well, Access Industries responded in a statement this evening saying work on the privately owned vacant tract has begun for a condominium hotel development, and that due to safety concerns during the work phase, the path that runs over the private tract to the beach will be closed. It continued saying unauthorized items that had been left on the private property have been carefully collected and that security would have them available for pickup on Friday. For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar was quick to react to the drama at Cabbage Beach. He insists he was blindsided by the move to block beach access. Jasmine Brown has that angle.
The tourism minister spoke exclusively to our news team moments after he got off the phone with the developer, and he called the move today simply unacceptable.
Dionisio de Aguilar was completely blindsided by this recent development at Cabbage Beach. I had no idea that this was going to happen until my phone started to blow up this morning about a fence being erected and access to Cabbage Beach being denied.
De Aguilar says it was only after he got a tidal wave of calls that he was able to reach out to the developer Access Investments, whose contact information was on a sign posted on the fenced-off property.
The developer, the persons that own or who would have purchased the Ocean Club property from Atlantis, so Atlantis has nothing to do with this, they are claiming that this is private property. and they are intending to develop this property into a condo hotel.
Diagler says it was during that phone call that he first heard of their plans to build that $250 million condo hotel, as his ministry was not informed prior to the drama that unfolded at Cabbage Beach. The tourism minister says he explained to the developers that Bahamian vendors have worked at the property for years and that blocking off access was unacceptable and a conundrum.
I understand what these vendors are complaining about. They've been blindsided. They haven't been consulted. No one said anything to them. And I agree with their level of vexation right now.
Diagler says as far as he is concerned, the developers need to take a step back and reassess their plans to see how they can best accommodate vendors on Cabbage Beach. He insists he expressed his views to those developers on the phone call this afternoon.
So I told them to go back. You have 24 hours to think about it. I don't think your first run at this was acceptable to anybody, certainly not to me and certainly not to the vendors, and that you need to think about how you intend to move forward with this to make it more palatable to all of the parties involved.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
A man who was killed by police was behaving erratically in the days before his death, according to his mother. Jared Higgs tells us she was trying to get him help and doesn't think police had to kill him.
The man who was shot dead by police after wielding a cutlass is 29-year-old Ernst Steve Charles, according to his mother.
When the ambulance comes, so he go get the cutlass. When I see that, I open the door, the yellow police was with her, and me and them ran together. And the next one was with her and direct the ambulance. When he see that, he start shooting.
58-year-old Ivana Joseph says her son was behaving erratically in the days and hours leading up to his death, clearing out all the cupboards and the fridge in their home. He was also escorted home by police at 11 on Monday night after taking a post-curfew walk. His grieving mother said she tried to get him help.
When I see Agbad in the night, Monday night, so I say, someone tell me, so he maybe have stress, call pastor. So I called pastor.
When the pastor couldn't come, Joseph says she called two family friends to speak to her son, but he tried to attack one of them. That's when she called police and an ambulance in the hopes of having him admitted to Sandilands.
They call ambulance. And when he hear ambulance come, so he get up and go get the cutlass.
At that point, Charles's mother and an officer at the home ran down the stairs of the apartment. An officer below fired up at the 29-year-old, hitting him in the chest. Minister of National Security Marvin Dame says he was briefed on the matter.
I was told as well that they followed the law. The coroner was called in immediately after the shootings.
But Charles's mother thinks the police used too much force.
I called the police to come help me, but I didn't call them to come shoot them to kill. So I know. So when you see cutlass, you scared. So I know. So you know, he had looked like he turned. So if you want to help me, you could shoot him on the hand and shoot him on the foot and try to put him down. So you shoot him on the chest.
The 29-year-old leaves behind a 6-year-old daughter. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Higgs.
Well, more than $500,000 will be paid out to just over 140 healthcare workers who were on the front lines of the fight against COVID-19 during the first wave. That's according to Health Minister Renward Wells, who began his budget debate contribution this afternoon before technical difficulties suspended House proceedings.
Mr. Speaker, we will pay out some $640,600 to 143 frontline healthcare workers who stepped forward initially during the first wave of COVID-19, who came forward and said, "Here am I, send me," when others were somewhat tepid and hesitant.
Wells added the Minnis administration approved an additional $3 million in honorarium to be paid out to 1,690 healthcare workers during the upcoming fiscal year. As it relates to nurses,
Mr. Speaker, this government approved $162,313 in overtime to nurses in the Ministry of Health during the period of January to August of last year, which was paid in October of last year. Mr. Speaker, I made the definitive decision in September of last year that overtime in the Ministry of Health was not to accrue, and that overtime was to be paid on a monthly basis. However, the Ministry of Health is still on a paper-based honor system. Even after some overtime monies were paid, log sheets were still being submitted for overtime spent during Hurricane Dorian. Although the government was ready to pay the overtime accrued by employees, the government still had to wait for the log sheets.
Well, mostly cloudy skies in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Hey Christina, and good evening Bahamas. In our first look at weather, we take a look at current conditions outside our studios, where it's 80 degrees under cloudy skies. Your winds are out of the south at 5 knots, factoring in the relative humidity. It feels like temperature in the mid-80s. In our satellite weather, abundant moisture continues to stream across the islands out of the tropics, keeping us under partly cloudy skies, with some unsettled weather continuing across portions of the island chain. That's your first look at weather. Stick around, your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, 2 men charged following a $1 million drug bust on Exuma. Plus, Bahamians roll up their sleeves to save lives. Stay with us.
Odette Carey Russell, Director of Products at REV. We're accustomed, obviously, with using multiple devices in our home, but we're always, either downloading or streaming things. And when you're talking about fiber, you're actually talking about speeds that are 10 times your regular cable internet services. Say, for example, you're downloading a 2-hour HD movie. If you were to download a 2-hour HD movie on DSL, it would take you 60 minutes. If you were to do it on cable internet, it'll be about 12 minutes. But if you did it on fiber, it'll be 1.2 minutes. And so speed is definitely one of the big selling points when you're talking about fiber. We know power outages are pretty common. But if you have a power outage, the reality is if you have fiber, it's not susceptible to also being out as well. So the reliability in the sense of having fiber through a power outage, you would still have continued services as long as you have a generator that resides within your home. So those are some of the great benefits of fiber: reliability, speed, consistency. It's just robust.
Well, 2 men facing drug charges in connection with the $1.1 million cocaine seizure on Exuma earlier this week. Giorgio Bain has the details.
59-year-old pilot Anton Johnson of Georgetown, Exuma, seen in the plaid shirt, and 27-year-old John Hanna of Dignity Gardens in the yellow shirt were arraigned in the magistrate's court on several drug-related charges. Both men denied charges of drug possession with intent to supply, importation of dangerous drugs, and conspiracy to commit the offenses. They were arrested in Daniel Key, Exuma on June 13th after their plane landed. Shortly before the landing, law enforcement officers on a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter allegedly saw their plane, a twin-engine Piper aircraft, flying at low altitude before 2 crocus sacks of cocaine were dropped from the aircraft. Police later seized 58 black-taped packages of cocaine with an estimated street value of $1,161,000. Both men were remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections pending a bail hearing set for Thursday afternoon. Reporting for our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
And a customs officer facing multiple drug-related charges before Chief Magistrate Joy Ann Ferguson Pratt today. 41-year-old Quabenor Campbell in the white T-shirt was charged with 2 separate incidents, resulting in 2 counts each of conspiracy to possess dangerous drugs with intent to supply, possession of dangerous drugs with intent to supply, conspiracy to import dangerous drugs, and importation of dangerous drugs. Campbell denied all charges and was granted $15,000 bail for the first set of charges and $9,000 bail for the second matter. He returns to court for trial on July 21st and September 28th. And Princess Margaret Hospital hosting its annual National Blood Drive today at the National Stadium. Hospital Administrator Mary Walker and PAHO WHO Bahamas representative Dr. Eldana Boisson stressed the importance of the event.
This blood drive is very crucial for us in the healthcare system. As you would appreciate, we always need to replenish our stock. And persons have been a bit reticent in coming out with the COVID pandemic and everything that was going on and the limitations that it caused for our movements. So it's very crucial that we replenish our stock.
So it is important for the country to have a regular supply of blood so that persons have blood available to them when they need it. During surgeries, ill persons, you have an accident, emergencies. It's difficult to be scrambling to get persons to donate at that point in time.
Kenneth McPhee and Antonio Thompson also rolled up their sleeves to donate blood.
Having children, people have to think that
one of these days you're going to need this help. So whilst you can, you should help.
I have a family member that needs it in particular for something they're doing this weekend. So I decided I would come in and do it for them.
And up next, our news dads open up about fatherhood, plus more money allocated for youth sports. The details when our news returns.
Odette Carey Russell, Director of Products at RAB. We're accustomed, obviously, with using multiple devices in our home, but we're always, either downloading or streaming things. And when you're talking about fiber, you're actually talking about speeds that are 10 times your regular cable internet services. Say, for example, you're downloading a 2-hour HD movie. If you were to download a 2-hour HD movie on DSL, it would take you 60 minutes. If you were to do it on cable internet, it'll be about 12 minutes. But if you did it on fiber, it'll be 1.2 minutes. And so speed is definitely one of the big selling points when you're talking about fiber. We know power outages are pretty common. But if you have a power outage, the reality is if you have fiber, it's not susceptible to also being out as well. So the reliability in the sense of having fiber through a power outage, you would still have continued services as long as you have a generator that resides within your home. So those are some of the great benefits of fiber: reliability, speed, consistency. It's just robust.
This is our news. Welcome back. As we count down to Father's Day, 3 fathers in the Our News family are sharing what it's like to become a parent and offering advice to new fathers. Jared Higgs has that.
Patrick Major is a master control technician at Our News. He's married with 3 kids, ages 13, 7, and 3. He says when he's not ensuring the news gets on TV, he's being blown away by his children's intelligence.
When they come to me and tell me stuff that I have to ask them, how you know that?
Major says fatherhood is unexpected, no matter how much you prepare. He says the love starts as soon as you set your eyes on your children.
When they give me our baby and they look up at you, you realize that that's a change in time in your life.
Marcellus Hall is another great Our News dad. He has a 16-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. He says one of his greatest joys is sharing his passion for sports with his children.
Me and my dad had a lot of moments when we kind of clashed heads because I didn't understand some of the things he was trying to tell me. So it wasn't until years later, all these years later, that I've now become a father myself, that I kind of understand a lot more what the sacrifices were that they made.
Guardian senior editor Juan McCartney is another proud father of a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. His son loves karate and his daughter is excelling in ballet. McCartney says he only truly understood unconditional love when his children were born.
When my children were born is the understanding that you would actually give your life in order to protect their life. And I don't mean any disrespect, but for nobody else, I fully understood that. And you would fully say, I would jump in front of a bus to save my child, you know what I mean?
From speaking to all of them, it's clear that fatherhood is full of joy and sacrifice. However, something stood out from speaking to all 3. The advice they had for new dads.
You have to exercise extreme patience with yourself and with them in order to help them understand that you're there to help them and guide them.
I know it's easy sometimes to get exasperated or sometimes frustrated when kids don't do what you want them to do or when they make mistakes, right? That's part of growing up. You got to remember that when we grew up, we made a lot of mistakes too.
Kids make you a man. Kids make you thoughtful. Kids make you plan. It's not about you no more.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
And now we are joined via Skype by Jackie Clare, Assistant Vice President of Operations at RF. Jackie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us, what is the outlook now that the economy is beginning to rebound? Is the private sector ready to invest in the community and in youth sports?
Absolutely, I do believe so. Here at RF, we support local golf, especially among the youth. And so our partnership with the Bahamas Golf Federation helps us to achieve that. And so we are supporting the tournament that's happening this weekend, and that is how we are contributing to youth sports locally. And so I think Corporate Bahamas, they are also coming on board and they continue to support other initiatives. And so, yes, definitely, I do believe that the private sector is ready to invest and continue to support what they've always done prior.
And so what does it mean to be a good corporate citizen, especially as we're seeing more of the economy open back up?
A good corporate citizen is one that supports the community and its initiatives through offering its time and resources. So for us at RF, it is through our partnership with the Bahamas Golf Federation and through this championship in particular. So when we support the young people who enter the championship, those that perform well, they do advance to an international championship. And through that, they get exposure, not just to other cultures, but to the sport on a world stage. And so that is how we are being a corporate citizen.
Thank you, Jackie, for joining us. Again, the tournament takes place over 4 days, starting this Thursday, June 17th, and ending on Saturday, June 20th.
Thank you.
Well, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, Iram Lewis, promising more money for youth sports programs in the Bahamas. Marcellus Hall has that tonight in sports.
All right, thanks a lot. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Jazz Chisholm and the Miami Marlins currently involved in a tough 3-game set with the St. Louis Cardinals. This past weekend, however, was Bahamas Heritage Week, or Bahamas Heritage Day, featuring Jazz Chisholm and, of course, the Marlins against the Atlanta Braves. On hand, a number of dignitaries from the Bahamas government, including the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, the Honorable Iram Lewis, who, upon seeing the matchup and seeing Jazz on the field, promising to give more money towards youth development.
Once programs are properly structured, my whole mandate is to create opportunities for youth sports and culture. And sports is a tool by which persons can earn an education, tertiary education, even high school education now, and earn a very good living. So the investment will be made in the programs. The leagues are properly structured, and I do believe that based on what's going on right now, based on what I see in the pipeline, with respect to baseball players and the other athletes, the swimmers, track and field, the rowers, certainly I'll be paying a lot of attention to what is going on, particularly with the youth that is involved in sports and other positive.
And that's your check on Sports Free here on this Hump Day Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Thanks, Marcellus. Well, the Catholic Board of Education is challenging teachers to innovate in education. The bright idea after this break.
Odette Carey Russell, Director of Products at RAB. We're accustomed, obviously, with using multiple devices in our home, but we're always, either downloading or streaming things. And when you're talking about fiber, you're actually talking about speeds that are 10 times your regular cable internet services. Say, for example, you're downloading a 2-hour HD movie. If you were to download a 2-hour HD movie on DSL, it would take you 60 minutes. If you were to do it on cable internet, it'll be about 12 minutes. But if you did it on fiber, it'll be 1.2 minutes. And so speed is definitely one of the big selling points when you're talking about fiber. We know power outages are pretty common. But if you have a power outage, the reality is if you have fiber, it's not susceptible to also being out as well. So the reliability in the sense of having fiber through a power outage, you would still have continued services as long as you have a generator that resides within your home. So those are some of the great benefits of fiber: reliability, speed, consistency. It's just robust.
Welcome back to our news. We've had a few rainy days, but how's the rest of the week looking? Here's Greg back in the Weather Center.
Thanks again, Christina. In our second look at weather, we take a look at the tropics, where what was once Tropical Storm Bill has merged with a low-pressure system across the North Atlantic, while a tropical wave that moved off of Africa a few days has weakened quite a bit. We are still watching an area of disturbed weather in the Bay of Campeche, and the National Hurricane Center giving it still a high chance for further development over the next few days as it drifts towards the north. Weather across the Bahamas will gradually improve as the layer of Saharan dust moves into the area for the end of the week. Your boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas: your winds will be east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots with 2 to 4 foot seas, while in the southeast Bahamas a caution flag remains in place for you guys down there with east to south easterly winds 15 to 20. Your seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Here's a look now at your national forecast. Now we'll look at your extended forecast through Monday. That's a look at our weather. Make it a great night, everybody. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. Well, the Catholic Board of Education is seeking to bring new ideas to the classroom by launching the Innovation in Education competition for teachers within the Catholic education system. The challenge to find new ways to integrate technology and teaching.
They would first have to enter into the competition by filling out a form that is on our Catholic Board of Education website. Once that form is filled out, we will send them information about certain things that they would have to meet, the criteria that they would have to meet for the competition. For example, they will have to present their innovation to a team of or a panel of judges. And from there, if they come up with an app or a website, we in the Catholic Education will facilitate its development.
The competition launched in the Alive Lounge at Fusion Superplex today. Catholic Board of Education Director Claudette Roll says educators stepped up to the plate during the pandemic, incorporating more technology into their teaching.
Keeping in mind the Catholic Board of Education presented a very good opportunity for us, and we thought it was only best because it's education-based and it's technology-based for us to jump on board and, of course, become a sponsor.
They could dig a little deeper and come up with something that will be applicable not only for the Catholic school system, but to help the development of education in the Bahamas.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.